Here now to speak on the issues and the dynamics of Nigeria's electricity tariffs is Kunle Kola-Olubiyo, the president of Nigeria Consumer Protection Network and a member of the Presidential Ad Hoc Advisory Committee on review of electricity tariff in Nigeria. Glad to have you join us on the show, Kunle.
It's my pleasure. I was a member of the committee for August 2020. Yeah, my pleasure.
Good. The NERC, you could do us a favor of speaking up a little bit more. It will be interesting so we can get to hear you clearly. Well,
okay,
the NERC...
I hope you can hear me better now.
Yeah, we can hear you better now. Thank you so much. The body responsible for regulating electricity says DISCOs will have to follow service-based principles when it comes to tariff. Let's get a clear picture, really, of what this implies. I know that the SBT, service-based tariff, talks about customers will be consulted, customers will be metered, which has not been done, no estimated billing. Let's get a sense of what this clearly implies.
Thank you very much. To us as an end user of electricity, particularly coming from the civil society that I represent, you and I, the president, the NEC you are talking about, they all belong to different categories of end users of electricity. Having said that, giving you a short preamble, I was a member of the committee, Presidential Ad Hoc Committee on Review of Electricity Tariff, that have eminently placed Nigerians and experts that made different presentations. And at the end of that committee, we made our position clear with what we call the minority report. That means a dissenting report. That pre-1st September 2020, the electricity tariff that was in place, which averaged 24 naira per kilowatt hour or what have you, was whole in the sense that, you know, the electricity end users in Nigeria have been practically reduced to guinea pigs. Guinea pigs in the sense that there's what we call padded cost. The cost of gas, which is produced in Nigeria, is about 100% loaded compared to what it is sold at international shelf price. The cost disparity in exchange rate with its volatility, presently now if you go to the parallel markets about 480, and government invoices is being paid at 360. So it gives you a shortfall differential of about 120 naira transferred to the electricity consumer, transferred to Nigeria economy, transferred to the general well-being of Nigeria, making the economy to be strangulated and not globally competitive. Having said that, in 2013, when I was a member of the Technical Panel on System Collapses, we know the challenges of the grid. Our grid is obsolete. There's obsolescence of infrastructure. It has transmission willing constraints. The truth of the matter is that if you sustain the grid at a tempo of more than 5,500 megawatts, the grids will collapse. And so what are we talking about? The generation company signed agreement with government to wrap up power from 3,005, which they've done, to 5,500 megawatts. Beyond that, Nigeria signed a take-or-pay agreement with the generation company, and now they've been telling us that they've been growing power on PowerPoint presentation. For those who are internet savvy, if you go to a conference, you see people using PowerPoint to do, power growth by graph, flatten the curve like we have in the COVID or what have you. So we are paying for that capacity. If power is grown at 8,000 megawatts on paper, and it doesn't get down to you and I, and now because we signed an agreement that they should ramp up power, we are paying for power that is not being delivered to us. For example, now the NIPP, Nigeria Delta Power Holding Company, have generation capacity of 6,000 megawatts. In a day, only 600 is peaked. So you have about 5,400 stranded power from NIPP. There are regulatory gaps that are supposed to encourage eligible customer framework for the NIPP to sell even below the present value to willing buyer, willing seller. That is not allowed because we have a weak regulation. For the hydro, still talking about padded cost, they can do power at 17 naira, and sell at 24 and make 7 naira. That is not being done. So the main issue is that the tariff we are paying for by August at 24 naira, it is still viable. Now, because of boudoirs and because of vested, it's a cartel-like rent economy in the power sector. We are being made to bear the burden. Yes, we know that there are challenges in the sector. We know that we are having challenges in funding the budget, but we should not be used as guinea pig for this economy. It's edging Nigeria out of global competitive index. And we submitted a minority report that these general sector inefficiencies should be cleaned up. There's many great regulations. There are so many things that government need to do. Why are they afraid of doing that? Why are they afraid of doing review of the privatization process, which is the marriage of convenience? So the issue we are talking about is that this present tariff is a misnomer. It is designed to serve the interests of the cartel-like sector-specific power sector economy, and it's unacceptable to us. And the action of NEC on the 1st of January only legitimize the impunity that consumers have been crying for, and crying aloud and complaining about. And so it's unacceptable. The meters are not there.
Well,
I got a call from Kaba, my hometown in Kogi State. They've gotten 100% increase, and it's not commensurate. And you cannot even by mantra or slogan say service reflective. It will not translate because the monolithic nature of some grid, single feeder feed from that goes to Wari and some other places like that. There are places that the basic system protective devices, the way the grid is structured, it needs to be reconfigured. And if you don't do that, you can't do that in immediate. And so it is just to get more money into their pockets, and there won't be remittance. And so Mr. President needs to listen to us. And that's what we have been doing, both private and unofficial. We've been putting them on their toes, and we believe that there must be a paradigm shift. The Minister of Finance was telling us that she's not aware that the domestic gas obligation, which entails OPEC benchmark says for crude oil to be exported, 50% for domestic to reflate the economy, to create some economic activities, and 50% for export. And we are exporting all our crude oil exploration per day, because for every crude oil that is exported outside Nigeria, if it's 51 naira, there will be $10 below the Brent commission. Sellers agent, buyers agent in that chain that goes down to some people in Switzerland or foreign account. Quote me. And so at the expense of the economy, look at what our youth did the other time. They took to the street. And so we cannot continue to have this kind of Capitol Hill shenanigans by our youth who have gone to school, whose energy needs to be constructively
all right.
And positively
let's come.
The issue we are saying is
yeah, let's come in there a little bit. Well, Saleh, let's just say that, not even say, I mean, it has happened. Saleh Maman, the Minister in charge of Power,
Minister of Power
has ordered NEC to revert to status quo until the committee finishes its deliberations. I'm just wondering, I know NERC is in charge of regulation, but why the miscommunication?
Yes, thank you very much for that question. The truth of the matter is that we need a very, very assertive regulatory institution. Here we agree that there are gaps with institutional framework, regulatory framework, and legal framework that could be rejigged or, the EPSR Act of 2005 is 16 years, and naturally, any law enacted or crafted 15, 60 years ago, there will have been an emerging trend and, things that were not envisaged. So basically, NEC is weak. NEC gets percentage share for every increase in tariff. NEC is in business. When the former MDTCN did enforcement of remittance to regulation, NEC had excess money from remittance because what the MDTCN did is that those backlog of remittance that were not paid to NEC, he was knocking them off. He knocked off Enugu, he knocked off Kanu from the major bulk area of transmission line infrastructure that cascaded to the distribution end of each of the discos, and they were forced to pay the money. It didn't go into protocols. So NEC had enough money. So what we are saying is that NEC is an institution of government. NEC is supposed to limit itself to, budgetary allocation from government and contribution from non-state actors like international agencies, which will enhance the independence of NEC. But as it is now, for every tariff that is increased, NEC gets a share of the percentage. There's money that is paid to the discos. Disco is just a revenue collector. When they collect their money, most times before federal government ring-fence the account of disco, which the end users are happy about, there was impunity. A disco will make 10 billion in a month. They will decide what to even declare to their board management. I had to intervene with one of the discos chairman management conflict that they didn't even call a board meeting for 6-7 years. When they make 10 billion, they don't even declare to the board. It's parapol. Sometimes they don't even remit to the market to embed the electricity pool. They don't remit money. The federal government have bring friends because they kept collecting money, and federal government have bring friends to escrow the account of the sector, which in days to come now, some will edge themselves out if they can't cope because it's not going to be business as usual. So what we are saying is that when you pay 60 naira, for example, certain percentage go to TCN for wheeling charges. That means service charge for transmitting the power, cascading the interface between generation to distribution, the transmission grid infrastructure, they are the purveyor, they are the connecting rod. So they transmit between the two. They get their service charge and wheeling charges. There was backlog of unremitted service charges which the former MDTCN achieved through knocking them off the grid. Now, NEC gets certain percentage of this money. So as this money is being increased now, NEC is always in, or NEC has never failed in arbitrary adjustment of tariff. But where NEC has failed is that there are payments in Sango Water for meter. There are payments in Ikorodu since November. NEC gave an order that when somebody paid 10 working days after payment of prepaid meters, there will be sanction. And because there is this familiarity, because there's conflict of interest, they are party to sharing the formula. NEC should be, expunged from this sharing formula. NEC should be made to be independent. And we want a more assertive NEC. What we have seen over the years is that the challenges of governance is because of lack of regulatory enforcement.
So is what you're saying then that NEC has become... It's what you're saying then that NEC has become too embedded in this process?
A toothless bull. No. Let us not embellish the matter. NEC has become a toothless bull. Just within the week, I was on the sister station and we said consumers want our own NEC. NEC has become a toothless bull. If you have a law and there are no enforcement, we have CapMine, credit advance payment for metering installation, CapMine. It was a very novel idea. And customers will pay, end users will pay, 2-3 years, they will not be metered, people will hold on to their money, and according to the service level agreement, these people came with Jankara and Jingi, profile. They brought in what we call marriage of convenience, brought in so-called technical partners from Europe, and used their bank statement and account to get the license. And as soon as the license were gotten, there was what they call a divorce, which was a contract marriage. So basically, we've said it times without number that this is a fraudulent contract. And in overall public interest, if you have a fraudulent contract, federal government should go for a review of this contract. The time is now for a midterm review of privatization so that the liquidity that we expect, the foreign direct investment that we expect is not there. The electricity consumer were not designed to be the mainstay of cash flow Yeah, this tariff is padded. And this tariff is for August last year, which the action of 1st January legitimized. By end of third quarter, there will be a major tariff review. And the economic sustainability plan of government, the cash flow, we're just coming out of COVID. In the US, the citizens were given 1,200 in March last year. Very recently, the parliament approved 2,000 for any American citizen that is any less than $70 a month. Then for couples, 4,000. These are COVID impact, economic impact reduction strategies to create a social safety net. And we don't have to allow the elderly and you and I to embrace the culture of NSAS. And that is why we are talking and engaging government in a decent manner. They must listen to us. What is bad in reviewing that framework of domestic gas obligation for pricing? The JVC, joint venture contract and joint venture agreement that was signed years back at the inception of partnership with the IOCs, they are long overdue for review. And the president has given a marching order to the Minister of Petroleum. We don't expect him to go and put it in the shelf and wait till 2023.
All right, Kunle.
Because this economy must be reflected.
Yeah, Kunle. Again,
yes,
NEC says, well, I don't know whether to say they seem to be making sense. I don't know. NEC says that price increase will continue until discos cover their costs, because you talked about infrastructure a while ago and how that there are challenges and problems in the system, in our grid.
Come again. Disco have what? Cost recovery?
No. That NEC says
return on investment.
Price increase to continue until they cover their cost. What's your sense of that? And you earlier talked about challenges in the infrastructure, in the grid. So NEC is saying that these increases are going to continue to come until the discos are able to cover their cost. Does that bode well with you? Does it make sense?
Well, by 2013, when this sector was being privatized, we didn't have in place the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Tribunal. That has been activated. The tribunal has been set up. My brother and friend, Prince Rukera, is the vice chairman and executive secretary of the commission. You know, there's a tribunal, there's a commission. Now, there are global best practices on competition. This privatization, the model that was adopted, is inimical to global competitiveness. It's entrenching monopoly. Electricity consumers in Nigeria don't have right to choice. In the UK, just like we have 40 in the telecom, if a service provider, like you have buy power and what have you, if you are not satisfied with the service provider, you have a right to choice. But here in Nigeria, we've been so structured in the sense that consumers don't have right to choice. So on the ground of monopoly, in days to come, we intend to activate and test the power of that tribunal. For a review, the tribunal ought to write to Mr. President, any sector that does not endear itself to competition is inimical to inclusive growth. Having said that, next said the participants and investors have the right to recovery. Who are the investors? Pre-privatization, most of the infrastructure, quote me, that you have today that has been taken over by the downstream, they were infrastructure that were funded by foreign loans taken by Nigeria. We have the World Bank project monitoring unit of TCN, PMU, project monitoring unit, TCN Finance. We have the African Development Bank, PMU. We have JICA. We have the Niger Delta Power Holding Company. We have the rural electrification. To make matter worse, there are several projects that have been completed by, single interest or long-term finance moratorium backed loan that the discourse have even refused to take over because They say they don't want it to increase the burden of their CapEx. Generation capacity that could, apart from the grid, there are available capacity of not less than 11 to 13,000 megawatts. Take, for example, Niger Delta Power Holding Company signed agreement with Aku Gas. It is government financed by the three tier of government, local government, federal, and state. What it means is that they envisage that by this year, we will have ramped up our capacity, load utilization to 6,000 megawatts. Now, every day, because of that agreement, it was Niger Delta that bailed us out during the COVID. They will have available ready to pick 5,000 to 6,000 megawatts. Only 600 will be picked. And the eligible customer framework of the same neck allow Niger Delta to sell less to the industries. The discourse will be on the top to be competing. How can you send to the industry? This is our terrain. The type of licenses that were given to the distribution licenses. Look at what happened to Bat Energy. Geometric in the southeast. Its agreement preceded privatization. It was very recently, about October, November, that the BP was able to resolve that. How can you give a landlord rent seeking the whole of southeast? For Enugu Disco, for example, there can't be competition. Somebody in Area, Onitsha market, and Ogbete market in Enugu want to have alternative sources of power. And now a disco will sit down somewhere. If you decide to come up with new innovations that takes more than 10, 50 people that you want to give them readily available source of power, you will be paying them commission, percentage, or what they call omonile, distribution service charge. Does that end their competition? The essence of privatization is to promote competitive electricity market. Now that essence has been voided. And so that must be reviewed. The mini grid regulation, nobody is monitoring that. The meter asset provider, MAP, close to 500,000 Nigerians have demonstrated customer willingness to pay. They have their money. Some are paid, their money is invoice made. So if the regulator is not there, if the regulator is like a captain that has abandoned the ship, if there's regulatory somersault.
Kunle, well, I don't know whether to use the word realistic. Government says tariff hike is based on inflation. I mean, they revised it, but I mean, they're saying they're still going to...
Inflation of what? Remove the differentials in forex.
Okay, you brought forex too. They talked about inflation.
I don't know if you got me right.
Yeah.
How? I'm talking about padded costs. You are in Nigeria where we talk about padded budget. I'm talking about padded costs, gold plating, over-inflated costs. There are different components that makes up a tariff.
No, but Kunle, Nigeria is in recession. I mean, we can't neglect the fact that there's inflation. So they're saying the hike is based on inflation, the forex problem, the gas prices.
What we are saying is that it doesn't cost government anything to make. See, there are critical sector of the economy, infrastructure and power sector. Once you take care of that, it will have multiplier effect. Why should, if the operators now, they want to fight for their claims for operation, day-to-day operation, government pay them at 360 naira to $1. Meanwhile, they don't have access to the official exchange rate window. They go to the parallel market to buy at 480 and government pay them at 360. There's a differential of 120, which is what they call market shortfall. Every month they file up their claims and go to government. And so why can't government, through simple fiscal policy, close up the gap? Why will somebody go to CBN, Central Bank, and have allocation of dollars for round tripping, which the former Emir of Kano raised as former CBN governor? Why should we have that? Why should somebody just sit down in their houses, just like you used to have, LPO sales those days? You just go collect LPO, go to the gate, you sell it, and you go and sit down without doing anything, without adding any value. So what we are saying is that power sector, if there must be two exchange rate windows.
Please, it's been a very interesting conversation with you. Definitely very passionate. I'm sorry to have to interrupt you in the middle of what sounds like it's going to be another interesting point there, but we have come to the end of this segment. We thank you for your time and comments on this matter.